Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Mondays wherever you may be across the country or around the world. We are in a new studio, and I hope that it is going to be as great as the last studio that we had for the last decade. We have moved into a new place. Probably doesn't look any different at all to you. Audio guy may lose his mind over the fact that it may sound subtly different on the audio as we continue to modulate all of that. Want to tell you, thank you for all the support of my book, Balls. It is out in bookstores everywhere. We have sold thousands and thousands of copies. Thank you very much for buying them. We sold over 1,000 of you bought the autographed copies. I signed all of those. Those are all out. It should be at bookstores everywhere, whether it's Amazon, obviously, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. It's been 6 days. I am glad to be back home. I have been doing media across the landscape, and you guys have responded very favorably to the book, so thank you for all of that. All right. A couple of different things to dive into. We're going to talk college football. We're going to talk Trump at the NFL game. Big news in the NFL. The Giants have fired their head coach, Brian Daboll, as we will now find out what's going to happen with Jackson Dart going forward. Malik Neighbors out. Jackson Dart, concussion-related issues. And unfortunately, Cam Scatabo with the truly horrific injury that he suffered. The shutdown is over. We got a ton to get into, but let's start with college football. I wrote my starting 11 as I always do, and I laid out this fact. There are 7 SEC teams still alive for the college football playoff. There are 5 Big Ten teams still alive for the college football playoff. Big takeaway in the wake of Texas Tech's win over BYU, in the wake of Louisville losing, and also the loss of Virginia. It looks like, plus the loss that Georgia Tech had, and the double losses that Miami has had, it looks like the ACC is going to be a big bid league. So let's talk about this landscape overall. Where I think we are right now is we have the one bid I think is likely to go to the ACC, whomever is the champion. One bid is likely to go to the Big 12, whomever is the champion there. I think also then you are looking at certainly the non-Power 4 conference team. We're going to get a bid. And then to me, it looks like the Big 10 is going to have 3 teams that end up in the playoff. You're going to have a big win for Oregon on the weekend against Iowa. Last-second field goal to get the win there. You had Indiana, last-second incredible touchdown pass and catch at Penn State to get the win there. And Ohio State continues to roll, getting the win on the road against Purdue. Let's pull up the OutKick top 10. If you look in the SEC right now, I think you would have to be very, very confident about Texas A&M. I think you would have to be very confident about Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss all getting in the college football playoff. You look at my top 10 right there, I don't think there's anybody that can argue about who the top 8 teams are in the country. A&M, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Indiana, Ole Miss, Oregon, and Texas Tech. Now, you can quibble with where I have those teams ranked, but I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, those are the 8 best teams. No one can argue against that. I think Miami and Notre Dame, that's who I have in at 9 and 10. You could certainly have Texas and Oklahoma. You could have Georgia Tech. You could have not Miami ranked at all. You could have Notre Dame. And you could bump up Vanderbilt for all intents and purposes. There are a lot of teams out there that have a claim at the bottom part of the top 10. To me, and I've been making this argument since all this started, if you get to 10 wins in the SEC, you're going to be in the college football playoff. Again, I feel good about A&M, Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss getting to 10 wins, not particularly complicated there. The question is, for Oklahoma, for Texas, and for Vanderbilt, what does that pathway to 10 look like? Could immediately get eliminated this coming weekend. For Texas, they're on the road against Georgia. For Oklahoma, They are on the road against Alabama. That basically rug could get pulled out from under their playoff feet instantaneously. Vanderbilt now is into a bye week. Then they close with Kentucky and Tennessee. I think Vanderbilt will beat Kentucky. Big overtime win over Auburn in one of the most entertaining games of the weekend. So we will see how all of this ends up shaking out. In fact, if you pull up my SEC power rankings, this is one of the first times we've had SEC power rankings where I've had to tell you, you know what? I don't think anybody can really argue with any of these rankings that I have right now. Top 7 in the SEC all the way through Oklahoma, still alive for the college football playoff. Again, you can argue about maybe where's Kentucky, where should Texas be, where should Oklahoma be, where should Vanderbilt be, but I don't think you can argue about really any of these rankings. Maybe you can say, oh, Missouri's better than Tennessee. Maybe you could argue, hey, you know what, South Carolina's better than Auburn. But I really think, other than the loss that Texas had at Florida, there hasn't been really that big of an upset in the SEC so far this year. Everything has just kind of rolled all together and hasn't changed very much in terms of what we expect to see. I mentioned earlier, Big Ten still has 5 teams alive. USC has a shot if things went well with the rest of their schedule and they were to win out. Michigan has a shot if things went well for the rest of their schedule and they were to win out. That's pretty much it in terms of Big Ten and SEC teams. There's even a chance that a 9-3 team could end up in the arena with a chance to make the playoff, but we'll have to wait and see how all of that shakes out before we know exactly. But as we get ready for the college football playoff rankings to come out tomorrow night, I don't expect for there to be any kind of crazy outcome or anything changing there. Speaking of changing there, I've got a pick for all of you. PrizePicks. Go to PrizePicks.com. Use code OutKick. When you play $5, you get $50 deposited in your account. Whether you're in California, whether you're in Texas, whether you're in Georgia, whether you're in Florida, 40-ish states all over the country, you can play along. This is an easy one. Just 4 passing touchdowns tonight in the big game between the Eagles and the Packers, the final game of the weekend in the NFL. I think Jalen Hurts gets more than 1/2 passing touchdown. I think Jordan Love gets more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. There you go. Jalen Hurts more than 1/2 passing touchdown and Jordan Love more than 1/2 passing touchdown. That is PrizePicks.com, code OutKick. PrizePicks.com, code OutKick. Get hooked up now if you go to PrizePicks.com and use my name, Clay, and or OutKick as well. Trump went to the NFL. I believe we have footage of President Trump. He went to the Washington game as they were hosting the Detroit Lions. Not only did he go to the game and swear in multiple different of the new soldiers that were on the field there, he also got into the press box during the broadcast with Fox Sports. This was Margot Martin, who was with President Trump. This is what it looked like from Trump's perspective as he was interacting with Jonathan Vilma and Kenny Albert. Do we have a video of this, or is this just a still photo? If we can pull that up and play it. President Trump did a good job. He was breaking down Joe Namath, Drew Brees, Giants, Jets, his own history as a college football player, as a high school player, said he played tight end. They asked how many touchdown catches did he have? Not very many was the answer. And so as you look at that, I do think it's emblematic of the major culture shift that we saw, because it was not only that, when Amon-Ra St. Brown, when he got his touchdown, the Detroit Lions all celebrated by having a Trump dance, and they pointed to him up in the owner's suite. Again, if you compare Trump 2.0 to Trump 1.0, the argument was, how in the world can you allow Trump to be platformed at all? And now we've moved to the owner of the Washington Commanders / Redskins is giving Trump his own jersey. He's in the owner's suite. He's in the box. Trump has conquered sports in a way that has to leave the ESPN personalities losing their minds, candidly, and in a way that I think is culturally significant. When you've got athletes that are on the soccer field, like Christian Pulisic, when you've got UFC fighters like John Jones, when you've got NFL players like the Detroit Lions, when they scored that touchdown, celebrating with the Trump dance and giving a shout out to Trump, when you've got Trump in the press box in the doing the broadcast booth analysis, it's hard to argue that somehow he's Satan, that somehow he's Hitler. I think it's symptomatic of Trump's conquering of his critics. And also, I think we have a picture of Trump receiving that jersey, which is from Josh Harris, the owner of the Washington Commanders. And if we can pull that up, you will see that. Also, Trump then later seeing a kid who was a fan and giving him a challenge coin, which I thought was very cool. We'll pull that up and play it for you as well. And I'll just keep talking over it as you see that. Trump doing the dance, calling over the kid, and giving him one of the coins that he carries around, which I thought was very, very cool. Kid, extremely respectful, appears to be a well-raised kid, handles his interaction with the president well. And so props for that as President Trump was at the game. By the way, first time that a president has been at a regular season NFL game since Jimmy Carter in 1978. In other words, in my entire life, and it's hard to believe this is true, there has never been a sitting United States president attend a regular season football game, and Trump was the first ever to attend the Super Bowl between the Eagles and the Chiefs. Now, some people are saying, oh my goodness, did you see Trump was booed? Did you see people reacted negatively to President Trump? Of course. It's Washington, D.C. Government's in the middle of a shutdown at that time before Democrats bent the knee. And so, no, I'm not surprised that there were fans in Washington, which is overwhelmingly made up of Democrat voters that would boo the president. There are lots of people that cheered him too, but I think this is one of the cities that is foremost in the anti-Trump worldview. And there have been a lot of, remember, Trump was cheered at the Super Bowl by Eagles and Saints fans. I think Trump has been booed before when he went to a Washington Nationals game, if I remember. Look, people in D.C. voted 95-5 against President Trump. It's pretty crazy, 95-5. Okay, a couple of other things out there. The Olympics, according to reports, have decided to ban trans men, or trans women, I guess, men pretending to be women, are no longer going to be allowed to compete in the Olympics, meaning this dude, who was an Olympic weightlifter, of everything, if you had to think of a sport that would be most impacted by testosterone and men being bigger, stronger, faster than women, powerlifting might be it. And so this dude who decided to identify as a woman would no longer be eligible to compete in the Olympics going forward. This is the right decision. I think what happened was the two boxers who potentially are men that have refused to be a part of any testing. For people out there who say, oh my goodness, this is an incredible invasion of privacy. How could we ever allow this? This is not an invasion of privacy. You get drug tested already for the Olympics. All that's required here is a cheek swab to determine what your gender is. It's a cheek swab. They just give you a quick test. We already have steroid testing. We already have all sorts of testing that is put in place to try to ensure fairness of competition. I would suggest that whether or not you have a penis, probably a big determinant in how successful you might be in women's athletics overall. And so this test is the right move. I don't think it's a coincidence that the United States will be hosting the Summer Olympics in 2028, that President Trump in Los Angeles will be helping to put those on. And I think this is the International Olympic Committee using Trump as a sword and shield, so to speak, to finally be altering the overall decision-making as it pertains to this rule, which is really just common sense being brought to bear. I don't know how well this is going to work. But in part of my new studio, I decided, you know what? The one thing I don't necessarily love about radio is it's 3 hours every day of just sitting at a desk by and large. And so I decided, you know what? I would like to attempt to do the show by walking at a slow rate of pace on a treadmill that is at my desk. So I don't know how many of you saw this. This is a picture that was taken by Andrew, who helped to set this up. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know what the feedback is going to be. But in theory, this would allow me to walk 3 miles while we do the radio program. It just feels way more efficient than just sitting like I'm sitting right now talking to all of you. I'm doing roughly 4 hours a day of live programs. And so it doesn't feel like an awful situation to be sitting instead of sitting, to be walking on the treadmill. Matt Leinart has already weighed in and said that I'm likely to be tearing my ACL because I am the least athletic person that he knows. We will see how the reaction is overall to this. But in the meantime, this could be either a brilliant decision or an awful decision. Matt Leinart saying, "You're one of the worst athletes I know. This will be great content." And a lot of people are breaking this down. So we will see exactly how this goes overall. And some of you out there are saying that you have already put these treadmills in place. I know a lot of people actually, and this is not awful advice, a lot of people out there now walk and take meetings in neighborhoods, stuff like that. Just an effort to move and not be sitting all the time. So we'll see how all of this goes. One additional story that is out there, well, a couple additional stories. I mentioned that the Giants have fired Brian Daboll. If you'll remember, he was hired as White Brian. Black Brian, if Bill Belichick, if I remember correctly, filed a lawsuit saying that he was being discriminated against. So maybe now Brian Flores will get the chance to get the Giants job since White Brian has been fired. Shutdown is over. We told you on Clay and Buck, I've been talking about this for a long time. This was the inevitable way that this would come to a close. Once they had their No Kings Day, once they had the election in Virginia, it was inevitable that this is how the protest would end, that eventually a lot of Democrat senators would bend the knee and say, okay, we are fine with all of this ending. I thought it was interesting, Angus King actually went on MSNBC and said, ultimately, this made Trump more powerful instead of less powerful. So I am not particularly surprised by that. I doubt very many of you are surprised by it either. The BBC now may be sued, the British Broadcasting Corporation, for up to $1 billion for lying edits that they put in place. So we will see what ends up happening there, but they have been caught, along with many other companies, treating Trump unfairly as it pertains to all of this. And I want to actually give credit as we close out the program today. I actually want to give credit to Kim Kardashian. She posted that she failed the California bar exam, and a lot of people are piling on and making fun of her. I'm not going to be one of them. I have taken and passed 2 bar exams. It is tough to pass the bar exam. You have to bust your ass and study hard. I took bar exams in back-to-back years. I took one of those bar exams while practicing full-time. It is not easy to pass the bar exam. I, for instance, bet that I would fail the bar exam now if I took it, because it's been 20 years since I took a bar exam. I have not studied for the bar exam in a long time. You can be an excellent attorney. Most practicing attorneys because they become experts in a particular facet of the law. Very many of them would fail the bar exam even if they've been practicing for 20 years, 30 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is. I think we should encourage people to try to do hard things. It would be very easy for Kim Kardashian to kick up her feet and say, I'm super rich, I'm worth hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm a billionaire, I don't want to take any risk, I don't want to challenge myself anymore. Instead, she decided that she wanted to get a law degree, and she worked as hard as she could to try to get that law degree, and so far she hasn't been able to accomplish it. But she is trying to do something difficult. No matter what you do in life, putting yourself out there and trying to do difficult things is something that I believe should be celebrated, something that should be praised, even if in the short term it means that you don't have immediate success. I think Kim Kardashian is setting a good example for her kids in this context. I think she's actually setting a good example for lots of kids and lots of people out there that it's okay to fail. It's actually something that we should encourage to try to do hard things instead of continuing to just rely on having an easy life. Try to get out there and make a tremendous difference and be willing to sometimes fail, because if you are not occasionally failing, it means that you are not trying hard enough things. That's something that I try to tell my kids. Failure is not something that should be mocked or something that should be ridiculed. If you don't sometimes fail, and I failed at a lot in my life, it's actually a sign of complacency and of you only attempting to do things that are not particularly challenging. If you do not fail, you don't grow, you don't allow yourself to create a more expansive version of yourself. I give credit to Kim Kardashian. Keep trying. At some point, you will pass the bar. I actually have faith in her. Even the California bar, which is reportedly a very difficult bar exam, I have faith that at some point you will pass the bar. And I say that as someone who has passed the bar and knows the difficulty involved in studying for the bar exam and putting yourself out there and doing your best when it comes to trying to achieve. I bet that your father, who was a famous attorney, would be, if he were still alive today, very proud of you for not resting on your laurels and simply living a completely easy life as a celebrity in the Los Angeles area. Putting yourself out there, being willing to fail, I think is a good example for all of us, no matter what we do in our lives. All right, I appreciate all of you. We'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. Lots to talk about. We'll also be doing the OutKick show. More and more moving parts. Again, some of you may not have even noticed that we're in a different studio, but we are now in a different studio where I'll be doing all the shows going forward. Thank you all for your continued support of OutKick. Thanks for buying balls. We have sold a ton, and a lot of you have decided, you know what, you're going to be listening to the audiobook. There are a ton of you out there on the audiobook, but we got the hardback numbers, and they are fantastic, and that is a credit to you guys. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the book. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP, keep trying to push your horizons farther than they have gone before. It's good to try new things. Change is good. Trying new things is actually great. There's your bit of TED Talk for the day. Like I said, DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. This has been OutKick, the show.